Hello, hello, hello. Yes, welcome to another edition of Papa Bear. And we're continuing with our ongoing conversation about fatherhood and equipping, empowering men to be better fathers and to do, what they need to do as men and as fathers. So that's what this discussion is about. We're continuing with our discussion. I have with me a good friend, a good man.
Yeah.
The good man.
Shut up.
Shut up there.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
I'm good.
Yeah.
How is it, man?
Are you guys? It's good, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah.
Thanks for agreeing to be on this thing.
How you get, man? Anything, but I'm on TV, yo. I'm gonna be famous, yo. So silly, man.
You guys, man. We've come from a long way, you guys, man.
Yeah, too far, man.
This is how we used to talk. This is how we talk, by the way.
This is just normal.
This is us, man.
In fact, this is tame, man.
This is tame, man.
Yeah.
We should get OT to be part of this discussion.
Otieno, man. I'll send you this link, but
it's gonna be awesome. We'll miss you guys, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so both of us are dads. We both have sons, actually, among other children, and we just wanted to pick up this discussion about raising boys or raising men. And we're just talking about this just now. That there's actually a pandemic. There's a lot of boys who are walking around and they've not been raised.
We
have the whole phenomenon of the Manchild. Basically boys who've been raised and have not been raised and have just grown up,
or not even grown up. These are people who are of age, people who are supposedly supposed to be mature, but are acting like children, either privileged or demanding of a certain way of life. Not responsible, not responding at all to the issues around them, and you're having a lot of women getting frustrated because the men are not strong. They're not present. They're not doing or fulfilling their role as men. That's a big issue that's happening right now in this particular space. That's, I think, what we're really trying to figure out. How do we address, even just speak about these things, but also for our kids. How do we ensure that these guys are not the same in that particular space?
I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, if you think about any group of parents, you'll find that a lot of them are single mothers. And a lot of that single motherhood is as a result of some dude who just bailed. Some of it is genuine. Maybe it's let's say a widow or maybe there was some sort of issue. But for most people, it's just some guy who just decided he can't handle the responsibility and he walked away. And that's part of it. And I know there's different things, there's different reasons why that happens. But what we want to talk about today is really what can we do as fathers of young men to ensure that our sons don't turn out like that? How can we be part of the solution for this problem?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, top of my mind, I'm a father of a son. That thought sometimes scares me because I have this big responsibility of raising up a man. And unfortunately, or fortunately, for us as fathers, we have the big responsibility of drawing out that man in him. I don't think any woman can do that. There's just a God-given ability for us men to call out the man in him. Come out. Shush. I'm going to tongues right now.
The power.
But that's the responsibility we have. And in my own experience, as I watch my son, and my son watches me, because that's where it starts. In watching. It's all about experience. They're looking up to me. You remember when we were growing up, you know how we used to think that we were living in our own bubble. And then every once in a while we get feedback from guys and saying, guys are watching you. That they really admire you. And I'm like, hey, dude, what's this, man?
Me?
What? Me?
How?
Nah. I'm not even putting on a show.
You're just
and
being
many
you.
a times, as guys, as fathers, we're kind of just doing our own thing and not realizing that there's an audience.
Yes.
Remember even how those times you're in a car, you're driving somewhere,
Yeah.
your kids are at the back.
Yes.
And you're having a convo with your wife and something. It can even be a deep, it's intense.
Those moments.
And you're thinking these guys are oblivious to the fact that you're listening, what's going on
what's
here.
happening.
But they're
They
absorbing.
listen.
Absorbing all
Yes.
that. And it sometimes shocks you when your son repeats something that you said. You're like,
Where did you get that from?
Where did you get that from?
And it's just because he's been listening. He's been watching you.
Listening and watching. And I think that's one of the things that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Even more powerful in my own experience, I think the biggest impact I've had on my son is from him watching what I do or don't do, both positive and negative, than even from what I say. Because talk is cheap, man.
Yeah, you can't tell him, Mati, don't
do that.
And then you're doing it.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But if he's watching me, how I live my life, the values that I portray, how I treat the mother.
Yes.
Hey,
very important.
Very important.
Very important.
Because that kind of gives him a clue on how to interact with people around him. How I treat the siblings around, and I think we have the same kind of similar setup. We have one son with 2 daughters.
With 2 girls,
so how do you treat your siblings? How that social interaction, it's quite a daunting task, let me say. And sometimes it's not that I have it all together, and sometimes I fear that what I have displayed may not be a very good example for him. But now I'm starting to think more intentionally. You know how you live with the idea that someone is watching you.
Yes.
That big brother.
Yes.
But this is not a big brother now.
It's like a small boy.
It's a small boy.
Yeah.
He's watching me.
Small son is watching.
Small son is watching, and that's the whole thing. Live like you're being watched.
Someone's watching you.
Yeah.
It makes you a lot more careful. I think there's and that's powerful. Just the sort of the passive dynamic that. We're teaching even though we're not teaching. Our kids are learning even though we're not teaching.
It's not intentional, but they're just watching.
I think there's also a need for us as men to be active in some of the things that we teach. So we also decide what specific skills we want to impart on our kids, certain things that we want them to learn, and we do it in a very active way. So engaging him, making sure that he's learning manly stuff, or like what does it mean to fix something, or if something's broken, So you give them sort of those tactile skills which are deliberate and active. Take him to go play soccer. Take him to do certain things which are manly. Teach him how to tie his shoelaces. Teach him how to tie a tie.
How to ride a bike.
Like ride a bike. So we can also take an active role as fathers in teaching our sons certain specific skills. If I think about some of the things that my dad taught me, maybe a little older, things like shaving and stuff like that. It's all stuff I was done in a very deliberate way. And I think we can do the same as men. Let's be deliberate about what we teach our sons.
Absolutely. Responsibility is the other thing that we need to. It's a taught virtue. As you said, just echoing on that same thing, teaching them how to be responsible. So taking care of their own spaces. So one of the things that I'm trying to push my son to do is I've given him a room. I've promoted him to have his own bedroom. Already that time.
Come on now.
But that's a very deliberate thing because now I want him to know how to own his space. How to take care of his bed, his room, to make sure it's neat, to open his curtains, to air his room, to be responsible for that particular space, because it's very deliberate that at some point in life he's going to be able to stand on his own 2 feet and take care of himself and not wait for someone to pick up after him, which is now the problem we're addressing, where we have men who are grown but are behaving like babies.
Children,
you want everything to be done for you and you don't know how to do anything. And I like what you're saying about, experiential. So doing stuff together, and that's something that we're trying to do with my son. Going out for bike rides. Going out in the forest and really doing some manly stuff. I want to do a little bit more of that. I've realized also that, and I'll go a little bit spiritual here. There's no static on the
the mic is okay.
But we as fathers kind of portray what God looks like to them. And I'm just giving an example from from my own son. He at one point, and this is very funny, at one point he felt that I was the strongest, amazing dude ever.
Superman!
Super Dad, SD.
You guys.
Thanos, stay aside. I know Avengers 2 is coming, but
don't mess, man.
Don't mess. So he had this amazing notion of me, and I used to love that. Now, notice the past tense.
That's changing. That's changing already.
Of course, they're growing up and they're becoming more aware that I'm not Superman. That I have faults, that I have weaknesses. And that sometimes has scared me to, from moving from that lofty position as super dad to dad.
To be cut down a notch.
To be cut down a notch. And that's sometimes it's an important balance, because you want to give them a realistic view of who you are as a man.
Yeah.
You're a real man living in a real world with real issues. And we're struggling with a lot of things.
Oh yes, we are.
So we don't want to give them a lofty idea that, we got it all together, because we don't want to burst that bubble when they're much older, because it will just disillusion them.
Yeah, it can mess them up.
And then having those honest conversations about, the things that we struggle with.
Yeah.
Look, I'm in that position where I need to start talking about sex.
You guys, that conversation is so awkward, man. Wow.
But a necessary one, because it affects men so much.
Do you know they say the kids normally take their first source of information as the point of reference?
Thank you.
So if they don't get that talk from you or from me, if my son doesn't hear this from me, he's going to hear it from someone in school, and that's going to be his reference point.
Yeah, and that's scary.
Very.
That's very scary. So it's so important that we as men now start thinking, okay, how do we tap into that and make sure that we are disseminating the right information, demystifying all the clutter that is in the world, because there's so much information, and we're living in the information age. Information not only from social media, even though I've tried to shield my son as much as I can from that. But he's in a school space, in a social space. He's not living in a bubble.
Yeah, and there's sources of information.
Information from everywhere. And how do I help him process that information? So debriefing him every day. How's your day? What are you thinking about? What are your friends? What's the issues that you're facing?
Yeah.
And how can I now make it more clearer to him?
Yeah.
And having those conversations as genuine as possible without shocking his system, because obviously, again, it's the way God works with us. He doesn't just give us full dose. He just gives us what we can handle.
A little bit at a time.
A little bit at a time, what is palatable, but also being very intentional about it. So I take a lot of the modeling as a father. What we need to do is take how God fathers us.
Yes.
To see how can we pass that down.
The same approach to us.
So there's the element of discipline, there's the element of responsibility, but there's also how you disseminate information that is, gradual. So they don't overload. There's some things that a 5-year-old doesn't need to know.
Cannot process.
Cannot process. But there's some things that a 10-year-old needs to know. And how do you break that down in a way that they can understand? That's palatable, that's impactful. To them.
So I mean, we don't have a lot of time. It's really just a short video. It's an interesting discussion. What I'm hearing is there's a passive element of what we teach our kids, that whether we like it or not, our sons are watching us, and they're picking up. They're picking up information. Small sons watching, and they're picking up information from you, whether you're disseminating it or not. So that's one thing. I hear about the active element, that there are certain things that we have to be deliberate about, teach our sons and show them, because that's our role as parents. There's the issue of how we structure the information and how we put it forward to them, so that they're able to process it. Because you don't want to give big heavy stuff to a 5-year-old, but when a child is a little older, they do need certain information to come through. So there's a sense of structure around that. I hear the whole element of doing it in a way that, like God has done for us, the way God fathers us, or God relates to us as His sons, as His children. We also need to model the same when we relate to our kids. So I mean, I think it's really powerful. There's a lot of approaches, a lot of things that we need to do. But the bottom line is that as fathers, we have a responsibility to raise these young men. They're not going to raise themselves. We need to raise them, and we need to be active. We need to be present. And we need to be very deliberate about how we're doing this as fathers. Cool. Awesome, man.
Dude, man.
You guy.
Thank you.
Thanks for being, man. On this thing, you guy.
Thank you, man. Papa Bear, man. Click where? Down here?
Yeah,
subscribe?
It's down there.
Down
there. Down somewhere. It's on the somewhere.
Yes. Just click to subscribe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And share. Please share the video. Please give us your comments at the bottom there. If you want to hear a bit more about this subject, if you think this is a hot subject, if you have a different opinion on this, let's hear it. Let's discussion. Let's talk. Let's hear. We're basing this on our own experiences, but please let's have this conversation going. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get this conversation going.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for giving us this few minutes of your time.
Cheers.
Super.
Awesome. Shut up.
Shut up.